Okay, girls and boys, today we're going to be looking at some radio gear. Now here's a fairly modern radio transmitter. It's the Turnigy 9X. Everyone knows what these look like. Pretty straightforward. And they do lots of cool things. Got computer controls, got LCD displays, sticks, little switches, little twiddly knobs, and a little short aerial. And these work really well. I've got several of them and I use them all the time. Now, here's a little bit of a step back in time. This is what we were using in the 1960s. Yes, when I first started flying RC models, this is the kind of radio gear we had. And I'll just put these aside for a moment. Let's have a look at the transmitter and the receiver. Let's see what we got for our money back in the 1960s. Well, here we go. Here's the instructions. Beautiful, all nicely. There's no CD, of course, because we didn't have CDs back then. We're lucky to have records back then. And the instructions tells you how to put it all together. Nicely written. In fact, it's Japanese, but the instructions are actually good English. Back in those days, they really cared. Not like the Chinese today in some cases. So that's the instructions. And you might notice that this is actually made by OS. And yes, it is the same OS that makes model airplane engines today, nitro engines, the same company, and also made pulse jets way back then. But here's the transmitter, and look at it. There's no LCD. There's no switches and dials and levers and whatever. There's just a button. There's a little off-on switch here for turning it off and on, and it's a button, and it clicks when you push it. So probably leave you wondering, those of you who have never seen single channel radio equipment before, how on earth do you use this? I mean, just a button, what does it do? Well, I should point out, of course, it also has an antenna, but it's not a little short antenna like we're used to now. It's the old long wire antenna, and it screws together. It's got several pieces. This is a loading coil in the middle, and then it telescopes out and you have to actually screw it into the transmitter. So it's old long wire technology, because these of course were on 27 megahertz, and none of the spread spectrum stuff. And wait, it gets worse, I'll tell you in a minute. But getting back to this button would work in conjunction with one of these. These are the escapements. So when you push the button down, the rudder on your aircraft would flick over to the right, and when you released it, it would go back to neutral. In fact, what would happen is when you pushed it, it would go over to the right. When you released it, it would actually flick back to left and go back to neutral. So if you wanted to turn left, you pressed it twice and it went, and it stuck at the left-hand side. And then you released it and it went back to center. So one push for right, two pushes for left. What could be simpler? Now, it wasn't proportional. You just got full rudder. So if you wanted to do a gentle right-hand turn, you would be blipping the rudder like this, just giving it the occasional input of rudder, so it would do a little bit of the plane would do a bit of a twist and turn. And believe it or not, with these RC systems, we could do rolls, loops, spiral dives, the whole damn lot, just using rudder. Amazing technology, but look, it gets better. Here's the receiver. Look at the size of the damn thing. Now this is a OS Pixie super-regenerative transistorized receiver. And this little thing on the top here is for tuning it, because it didn't actually have a crystal in it. It was tunable. You could actually tune it to any frequency you wanted. The transmitter used a crystal, but this had like the old radio tuning dial. You used that to tune it. The problem was, of course, that because these were super regenerative, you could only fly one at a time. If you tried to fly two of them, they weren't sufficiently selective to not interfere with each other. So if you had someone on brown and someone on red, you couldn't fly together with these receivers, because one receiver would pick up the whole band. And so everyone had to come down. Well, you only had one person up at a time, basically. So that's the receivers, and that's quite a weighty thing too, and it was all transistors, brilliant in those days. And in here, we have a little box of paper, and inside the paper is an escapement. And if you've never seen one of these before, unfortunately, I don't know what's happened with these, but this plastic here is melted. It has a plastic wheel, and the plastic's actually melted. I'm going to have to make a new one before I can use it again. But basically, these had a little coil in them, like a little relay, a little solenoid, and you put a rubber band on here, on this, let me just get something to put against this so you can see what I'm talking about. On this little hook here, you put a rubber band and you twisted it up. And the rubber band turned this, which made this little yoke move. And when the little yoke moved, it made that little arm move. And there was your pushrod to push your rudder left and right. So it was rubber-powered servos, believe it or not, rubber band-powered servos back in the 1960s. And so that's what we used to fly with. Absolutely amazing, isn't it? And I've got a couple of other old radio sets here. If you want to see what's inside them and what they, how they compare to today's technology, just leave a message on the bottom of the video and I'll do my best to do that for you. Thanks for watching. Maybe there will be some more history on the RC Model Reviews channel coming up soon. Bye for now.